An interesting column today in the Daily Telegraph from their property reporter, Jonathan Chancellor. He's been in the game a long time, but he's written about the plan that's going to come in at the end of the month for foreign buyers to be banned from buying existing homes in Australia. Now, he's mounted the argument that it will make basically zero difference to the availability of housing in Australia, and he may well be right on that point. It's only 2% of property, residential property, that is owned by foreign investors in Australia. Most of that is off the plan stuff. It's not existing properties. But in the last quarter, or the last quarter that we have numbers for, which was the first quarter of the financial year, the September quarter, there was $1.3 billion spent by foreign investors on residential property in Australia, and that is potentially $1.3 billion of property that Australians otherwise could have bought. So the Coalition mounted an election promise in their budget reply speech last year that they would ban foreign investors from buying homes in Australia. The Labor Party recently matched that. There was some polling done. I think it was about 63% support for that idea. So Labor said, well, we better get on board with this. Chancellor writes actually that you've had an increase in foreign investors trying to get into the market, anticipating this ban coming in on April the 1st. But regardless of whether or not it actually makes a substantial difference, I don't see how you can argue it's a bad thing, because surely Australian property should be available for Australian people. I don't think that's controversial to say. And my major problem with it is that it doesn't go far enough. It bans the purchase of existing properties, but not off the plan. So if you're a Chinese investor, and we often talk about Chinese investors because they make up at least half of the people spending money in this country, but there are people from other countries investing in Australia too. But why should you be able to come in with all your money and buy 30 apartments off the plan and then say, well, I'm going to put them up for rent, when they're apartments that a first home buyer potentially could have snapped up? But how are you as a first home buyer going to compete with Richie Rich sitting over in China who can buy the whole damn building?
Especially when most sales are by auction nowadays, especially if you're anywhere on the East Coast. It's auction, auction, auction. So richest man wins, and guess what? Foreign investors are extremely wealthy. So you're quite right, Aussies missing out. But why is this ban only for 2 years? Runs out in March 2025.
Then they'll review it.
Not good.
Yeah,
then they'll review it. But this is a national good. Just to ban it outright, why does it only include new homes, as you've rightly asked, Caleb? And why is it not immediate? Real estate agents, I was on several websites today and they're all saying, great, now we've seen this massive uptick in foreign buyers who are trying to get on the gravy train before the door slams shut on April the 1st. It should have been immediate, if you ask me. What would we have missed out on by making it immediate? Absolutely nothing, except for less foreign investors snapping up properties that should be going into Aussie hands. It's that clear. And let's not forget, even though this may not make much of a difference, won't even put a dent in the housing crisis, heck, it's a step in the right direction. This government, all of the government, state and federal, got together in 2023 and launched this big idea. They called it, what was it? The National Housing Accord. It sounds so impressive. We're going to be building 20,000 houses every month for 5 years straight. We are going to build 1.2 million houses. That was supposed to kick off in July, right? Know how many new houses have been approved since then? 90,000. We are not putting a dent in it. They get together, they make these amazing announcements and don't deliver on it. In fact, put nothing in place in order to ensure that it was even possible. This is going to be the same. It's in the lead up to an election. It sounds like a very good headline, but it's temporary. It doesn't cover off on new homes. So what about all the new homes that are being built during that time? They're totally open to foreign investors. What's the use of even bulking up our supply, which we're not doing, but for argument's sake, let's say we were, when the foreign investors can get their mitts on it first?
Well, this policy is the brainchild of Claire O'Neill, who rose to fame as the Home Affairs Minister. You remember she and Andrew Giles did such a great job bringing a huge number of immigrants into our country, which may have had something to do with the housing shortage we're now experiencing. She said, and I quote, "It's not a silver bullet to the housing crisis because there is no silver bullet, but I really firmly believe," it's good, she doesn't just believe, she really firmly believes that given the housing pressures that Australians are facing today, we need to orient the entire efforts of the Australian government around security of housing for Australians. It's estimated that this policy will free up about 1,800 homes a year. That's out of about 500,000 that are sold every year. So it really is a drop in the ocean. If Claire O'Neill and the federal government were serious about solving the housing shortage, they'd do something that involved her previous portfolio, which was immigration.